was watching some videos on um this term called. The thing is with me is that I've been wanting to make a video like this for a bit of time, honestly. Um, Specific to um this term, this meme that people make on Karens, and for me, it's weird. I don't understand it. I really don't, because it's like, why do people always try to act like Karens are, Karens are specifically something inherently wrong? It never makes much sense to me, the description that people make on Karens to me. The stereotypes, basically, of a Karen. Because it's like, for one, I've seen like one article where they were talking about like conservative middle aged women, which is just weird. Like, so now we're saying a whole political belief is wrong. Most of the time, the things I hear about Karens actually seems to kind of describe my own mother. Like, to be completely honest, just being real. So it's just like weird to me why people always act like Karens are bad. Because it's like, for one, I was watching a video, they were talking about the descriptions of a Karen, for example. It didn't talk about the political side, I saw that in an article, but they were talking about like customer service and like calling the police on, black men, you know. And it's like, for one, customer service, saying, asking to speak with someone's manager if they are not a good employee, they should have the manager called on them. It's not just that they should have the manager called on them, though. They should be taped. Because, I mean, like, the thing is, people acting like, this is specific to race is weird to me. Because being someone who's been in customer service my early 20s, and I'm not far from my early 20s now. I'm in my mid to late, I'm 27, so I remember working at fast food restaurants and things of that nature, customer service, with, different types of customers altogether. And I don't remember experiencing anything where, in fact, I've never had a white person call, like, ask to speak with my manager, honestly, white male or female. Only one time somebody wanted their coffee done and I was new, so I got my manager and the manager taught me how to make the coffee basically. I was like 19. Didn't know how to make coffee back then. But I mean, so to me, I mean, like in my experience, I don't want to seem like negative or mean to anybody, but in reality, most of my time somebody wanted to speak to a manager was generally Hispanic or Black people. Specifically with Hispanic people, it was like, in two cases, they were like people who did not speak the language, and then they would speak to someone else, you know, who spoke Spanish and English, and then they would, translate to me. And then I would obviously be going off of what that person told me what the order was. And they would be upset because they got the wrong order. But it's really not my fault at that point because it's like you came to a restaurant speaking Spanish and, we don't speak Spanish here. Well, this is America, and people speak English generally, so obviously we're not going to be able to get your order. Um, so in those cases, they complained and stuff, and I always was like, well, if I can't speak Spanish, I'm not going to be able to do their order. How are you going to blame me when obviously the translator was not the best translator, obviously, in those cases? And I mean, is it even the translator's fault? I mean, the translator was doing the best they could. They weren't there to translate, they were there to flip burgers or whatever else they were supposed to do. They were just trying to help out because I couldn't speak Spanish, and, somebody decided to come to the restaurant speaking Spanish in America. Um, and then another situation is just like the situation with black people. I've generally experienced more of that with black people, honestly, where, black people would come into the restaurant and they would complain and want to basically get everything for free. And they would complain to a manager, see what they could get, you know, to basically hopefully get more than what they pay for, basically, and not just that. Sometimes it would just be that they just had an issue, they were angry, at, you know, I don't know, maybe they had a bad day or they're just angry at you. Sometimes I think it's a communication situation, honestly. Like, I think some people, they have a communication problem and they kind of feel like you should have a certain mentality or behavior similar to them, especially as a black person. And then when you don't, they get a little hostile towards you. And then, they want to have some kind of problem with you, and so then they want to call your manager and stuff. Like, I've had several times where people seem like they're just angry and want to take it out on you. And that would be mainly black people. So it's just weird people saying about a Karen when I've never encountered any kind of white person doing that in customer service. And what I think, to me, from the situations that people describe is like going back to what I was saying earlier, I think people don't pay attention to the fact that customer service is very you have to have very good skills, in customer service. You have to, be very attentive to your, customers. I mean, if you don't want to be attentive to them, then just go, don't work there anymore. I mean, your customers are literally the people who pay your bills. I mean, you're not caring about them and acting like they're nothing and they're not important or anything. Um, it, you maybe you aren't best, you know, the best waitress, the best cashier, whoever you are, however you serve your customers. Um, So to me, from my perspective, it's just like, a lot of the time people blame their bad behavior on these people. And then they basically say, they're a Karen to excuse their bad behavior. And, I think older people who are middle aged, are more likely to be outspoken about this because they've gone through so much lousy customer service. They've gone through so many people who were rude. and didn't pay attention to their customers, and now they're just like, they're not going to put up with that anymore. They're standing up for themselves. I don't think anything's wrong with someone trying to stand up for themselves and actually, get the right treatment that they need to have as a, customer, as a good customer. So to me, that's why when people talk about being a Karen, to me, it's like, one, it's ignorant because it's like, why are you thinking white people only do that? My mother does that all the time. She talks to managers if the cashier isn't good, if the waitress isn't good, if they are giving bad or lousy, you know, customer service skills, then, I mean, their boss should hear from, you know, the customer. I mean, how else are they going to know? They should get feedback from their customers. I mean, that's how you know if you're doing a good job or a bad job. Um, then, also on top of it, people try to talk about calling the police on black men. And I want to say on that, I think, honestly, black men and, black women and black men, white women, between white women and black women, I think that generally, obviously, I would think more black women call the police on black men than white women. Like, we interact with black men way more in most cases. And like, in my experience with my mother and her family, they generally did call on black men. Like, they called the police on black men. If they just saw them randomly, outside and they didn't know where they belonged, or they didn't, they were just loitering kind of like thing. Because, they were just trying to keep the neighborhood safe. Like, that was their way of doing it. And with that in mind, it's just like, even my grandfather, my mother's father, would do that. I think he called the most, actually. So, like, it's just weird to me that people always think like that Karens are specifically people who are like, super, racist, or like wrong to like ask for a manager or call the police. These aren't racist actions. Racism is more a basis of actually discriminating against someone for their color, not, calling the police on someone who is a suspect. It's not, trying to, get good service at a store or a restaurant. You know, People trying to say, oh, it's white privilege that makes you want to get good service at a restaurant. That isn't white privilege, that's just human nature. People like to be treated well. Now, only a low self esteem black person would say, I don't deserve to have good service at a restaurant or store because I'm black. If that was going through your head, or you were thinking white privilege makes them be treated better, then that's your problem, lady. That's your problem, sir. But that's not specifically their fault for wanting to be treated well. Everybody wants to be treated well, and there's nothing wrong with everybody wanting to be treated well, whether they're white or black. So, to me, I just didn't understand that. Also, lastly, I don't understand why Karens are just white. I've seen people have the same behavior like that who are black, white, Hispanic, Asian, and so forth. So I never understood why people always try and associate it with a race thing or racism. And lastly, like I said, I did find one basically article talking about conservative women, and as a conservative woman, I find that very insulting to try and say like that if you're a conservative woman who's of a middle age and has a good sense of self of not wanting to be treated like crap at a store, that now you're a Karen. Like, to me, what is this world coming to the fact that you think that just having some good morals and good standards makes you a part of a meme and trying to basically degrade a type of person, and try and act like that's a person that, is racist or a bigot or something of that nature just because, you know, they're just an individual who has some morals and standards. So that's all I have to say on this video. Thanks for watching and bye. I'm a little tired, so sorry if I was a little groggy, but it's late here. Thanks, bye.